It was an unremarkable summer morning in Tokyo, 1954. The air was thick with humidity. Travelers moved through Haneda Airport in a slow, purposeful rhythm, and immigration officers were going about their usual routines, stamping passports, asking questions, moving on to the next face in line. But one man brought everything to a halt. He approached the customs desk with the quiet confidence of someone who had done this before. He was well dressed, dark suit, neatly combed hair, clean-shaven. He looked European, mid-40s. Nothing about his appearance was strange. At first, he handed over his passport. The officer glanced at it, then frowned. Taured, it read. A country no one had heard of. The officer asked the man to clarify. The man, calm and articulate, replied with certainty. He was from Taured. He'd flown into Tokyo many times before. He was here for a business meeting, as always. This was routine for him. But for the customs officials, this was anything but routine. They asked him to point to Taured on a map. Without hesitation, he leaned forward and pointed confidently at the region between France and Spain. But where his finger landed was Andorra. When told that Taured didn't exist, the man seemed confused, offended even. He insisted that his homeland had been there for over 1,000 years, that it was a well-known country in Europe, that something must be wrong with the map. The tension began to rise. His passport appeared legitimate, complete with customs stamps, visas, and prior entries to Japan and other countries. The document wasn't a forgery, or if it was better than anything anyone had seen. Even his wallet contained various forms of valid currency: French francs, Spanish pesetas, and Japanese yen. All real. Airport officials were no longer dealing with a potential traveler. They were dealing with a full-blown mystery. Security was called. Immigration supervisors took over. They questioned him for hours, trying to catch him in a lie. But his story never changed. He was from Taured. He was in Tokyo for business. He had an appointment. He even had a company name and contact details. But every check came back the same. No record of the company. No record of the hotel reservation. No such country. He became increasingly agitated, though still polite, as if he couldn't comprehend why no one recognized his country, as if we were the ones who were mistaken. So who was he? A con artist, a delusional man, or something else? Authorities decided to detain him temporarily for further questioning. But here's the part that no one could have expected. The part that would turn a strange encounter into an unsolvable enigma. He would never be seen again. But before we get there, let's stop and think. What would you have done in that moment? If someone stood in front of you, holding a real passport from a country that doesn't exist, would you question their sanity or your own reality? Let us know what you would have done in the comments, because this is only the beginning, and the rabbit hole is about to get much deeper. The man's confidence never wavered. Even as officials at Haneda Airport surrounded him with puzzled stares and whispered debates, he continued to assert, with calm precision, that he was simply a businessman from a small European nation. A country that, according to him, had stood proudly for over 1,000 years. Taured. And yet, no such nation appeared on any official map, document, or diplomatic registry. When asked again to clarify his country's location, he returned to the map, unfazed. He pointed once more to the Pyrenees, between France and Spain, but where he pointed was clearly marked as the Principality of Andorra. Confused, the officials explained that he must be mistaken. But the man's face showed no sign of deception, only genuine disbelief. He insisted that Andorra didn't exist in his world. In fact, he claimed Taured had always been there. To him, it was as real as France or Japan. He'd even visited Tokyo multiple times for work. When asked for proof, he presented a passport, issued by the Taured government, filled with past travel stamps from countries around the world, including Japan. Some of the stamps even matched legitimate entry dates for flights that had occurred. The passport wasn't a crude fake. Its paper, ink, holograms, and wear all appeared consistent with real-world documentation of that era. Japanese immigration officers, trained to detect forgery, couldn't find any signs of tampering. His driver's license and company documents also bore the name Taured. He had bank statements, credit cards, everything lined up, except the country itself. When officials contacted the company he claimed to work for, no such business was found. The hotel he said he booked had no reservation under his name. Nothing verified, yet nothing looked fake. At this point, the mystery took a darker turn. Was this man mentally ill, stuck in a personal delusion so elaborate that it mimicked reality? Or was something even stranger at play? And this is where we pause for a moment. If you're fascinated by stories like this, strange disappearances, glitches in reality, and unsolved mysteries, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's much more to uncover, and your support helps us keep diving into the unknown. Now, back to the story. Japanese officials, having exhausted every logical explanation, decided to escalate the situation. They placed the man in a secured room at a nearby hotel while the government investigated further. 2 immigration officers were assigned to guard the door overnight. The windows of the room were locked and several floors up. Escape would be virtually impossible. But before leaving the airport, they asked him one last question. If your country doesn't exist in our world, now then where are you really from? He looked at them, not with fear, not with confusion, but with something else, something harder to define, pity. I'm from Taured, he said once more. I always have been. And with that, the man from Taured disappeared behind a hotel door. One that would soon become the last place he was ever seen. The world was about to lose him forever. The man from Taured was escorted from Haneda Airport under close supervision. Japanese authorities weren't sure what they were dealing with. A master forger, an intelligence agent, or something beyond explanation. But they knew one thing. They couldn't let him walk free. He was taken to a nearby hotel and checked into a modest room on the 4th floor. The windows were sealed shut, locked from the inside, and the room had no balcony. 2 immigration officers were stationed directly outside the door, instructed not to leave their posts for any reason. The man didn't protest. He appeared calm, even understanding. He changed clothes, ate a light meal, and calmly asked what time the investigation would resume in the morning. The guards stayed alert all night. No suspicious activity, no unusual sounds, no signs of movement inside the room. And yet, when morning came and the door was opened, he was gone. Not missing, not hiding, gone, completely and impossibly. The bed was untouched, the towels unused. His belongings, passport, briefcase, documents, all vanished. There was no sign of forced entry or escape. The door had not been opened, the windows were locked, and the guards swore they had not left their post, not even for a moment. Security footage showed no one entering or exiting, no one climbing, no one sneaking, nothing. It was as if the man had evaporated. Officials were stunned. An immediate investigation began. The room was examined from top to bottom. Walls were tapped, floorboards pulled up, vents checked. But there were no hidden passages, no crawl spaces, no means of escape. They even brought in structural engineers to see if any route through the building had been overlooked. But the conclusion was the same. Escape was impossible. The hotel was baffled. The staff shaken. Some began whispering that the man had been a ghost, or something worse. But officials didn't have the luxury of superstition. They were left with questions they couldn't answer, reports they couldn't file, and a man who no longer existed. Then, something even stranger happened when investigators attempted to retrieve the hotel's registration form, the very one the man had filled out upon check-in. It was missing. So were the internal security logs that noted the guard's assignment. Even the customs records at Haneda Airport were inexplicably incomplete. It was as if someone or something had systematically removed all evidence of his presence. But why? And how? The embassy officials, intelligence agents, and airport authorities eventually reached a silent agreement. The story would not be made public. There was no way to explain it. And no one wanted to spark rumors about alternate realities, interdimensional visitors, or time travelers. Yet the whispers escaped. First among airport staff, then among fringe journalists, then conspiracy theorists, and finally the internet. As the decades passed, the man from Taured transformed into a myth. A tale shared in quiet corners of online forums and late-night documentaries. A man with no past, a passport from nowhere, and an exit that defied the laws of reality. But those who were there knew better. They saw the man. They checked his documents. They spoke with him. They knew he was real. Which makes one final question unavoidable. Where did he go? Decades have passed since that eerie morning in Tokyo. Yet the mystery of the man from Taured refuses to fade. It has only grown stronger, feeding off the unanswered questions, the vanishing records, and the impossible nature of what occurred. What began as an immigration anomaly has become a legend whispered across internet forums, late-night podcasts, and YouTube rabbit holes. But behind all the speculation lies a haunting truth. A man entered our world from a place that does not exist, and then vanished without a trace. But how? Why? And what does that say about our own understanding of reality? Let's explore the theories. Theory 1. The parallel universe. SLIP, one of the most popular explanations, is the concept of a parallel universe. A world nearly identical to our own, but with subtle, defining differences. In his world, Taured existed where Andorra does in ours. Maybe in that reality, Andorra never formed. Maybe the map of Europe was drawn slightly differently. Could it be that somehow this man slipped through the cracks between dimensions? Science fiction? Maybe. But modern physics doesn't rule it out. In fact, theories like the many worlds interpretation suggest that every decision, every quantum event, could spawn a new universe. So what if, just for a moment, those worlds crossed? What if he didn't come from the future, but from a different version of the present? Theory 2. A time traveler's mistake. Others believe the man was a time traveler, not from another place, but from another time. In his timeline, Taured may have existed in the past, present, or future. His knowledge, his documents, and his complete certainty would make sense if he came from a world where Taured was real, and always had been. But if that's true, was his appearance in 1954 intentional? Or did he land here by accident, in a timeline not meant for him? And if that's the case, Did someone or something come back to erase him before he disrupted the fabric of our reality? Theory 3. Elaborate hoax or mass confusion skeptics argue it was all a misunderstanding. Perhaps he had a rare passport misprint. Perhaps he was mentally ill. Maybe even the name Taured was a mistranslation, or the result of a regional dialect misunderstood by airport officials. And yet, that doesn't explain the sealed room, the missing documents, the vanishing man. Even if we accept confusion or deception, there's still a physical disappearance with no explanation. Theory 4. Government cover-up. Some suggest that the man was part of a covert operation, a spy with false documents, captured by accident and quietly removed by his own government. But if that were the case, why let the story leak? Why not discredit it entirely? Instead, all that remains are rumors, stories, and silence. What makes the story of the man from Taured so unsettling isn't just that it happened. It's that we don't know how or why it happened. If he was from another world, is that world still out there? If he was a traveler, where did he go? If it was a glitch in reality, how many more have occurred without us noticing? And now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you believe happened to the man from Taured? Was he a time traveler, a dimensional anomaly, or a carefully hidden agent of something much bigger? Let us know in the comments. Your theory might be the one no one else has considered. And remember, sometimes the strangest stories are the ones that feel the most real. Because if someone could appear in our world completely documented, from a place that never existed, who's to say it won't happen again?